A ship about to enter the harbor. That's the situation your company is facing currently now. With the ship being DRT and your company, your family business, Munich, as the harbor. When a ship wants to enter the harbor, it needs to be evaluated how the ship looks like and whether the harbor is capable to let the ship dock in, and whether parts of the harbor could be damaged by letting the ship in. Today, we are here to give you answer to these questions. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to our today's team with Jon Lovis Imming, Moritz Waldmann, Fabian Plaza, and myself, Kavishan Selvaratnam. First, let's take a brief overview of the current situation of your company. Your company is originated in 1895 with headquarters in Geneva, but also with more than 80 facilities around the globe. The company is currently 100% family owned by members from the third to fifth generation. You're employing up to 10,000 people and generating about 3.9 billion Swiss francs. Now, let's look at the business strengths, culture, and purpose of your company. With the business strengths, we can see that through your high R&D expenses, you ensure a highly innovative company adjusting to new trends. We can see that you address a broad market by offering highly versatile products. For the business culture, we can see the fundamentals you have formalized in 1970s. These are deep values of all 5 branches of the family, with customers, people, creativity, sustainability, and legacy. The business purpose can be seen with the philosophy for good naturally. Is a sustainability-focused strategy based on the 3G pillar model: governance, growth, and green. Now, let's look at the 3-axis model. With the ownership, we have distant relatives from the third to fifth generation who are working together. The business is in the growth phase. Although having this big family backing up the company, we can see a business-first approach in your company. As family members do not take top executive roles, and non-family members make up the majority in the board of directors. Also, Patrick Firmenich stepped down as a CEO, and non-family member took up his role. Now, according to the Sharma Performance Matrix, we would categorize your company in the upper left corner with a good business performance and good family performance. As you steadily grow your business with continuous acquisitions, you have high sales, a good financial positioning, and a cross-generational cooperation of family members. Now, let's look at the ship that's about to enter the harbor, DRT. It is founded in 1932 and is currently had a shared ownership with Adian. It generates up to 550 million euros in revenue. Its business strengths can be categorized as a global leader in plant-based chemistry with diversified product portfolio, and also it offers unique capabilities for developing sustainable ingredients. For the business culture, we can see, as it is in comparison to your family business, a rather smaller company, it can be seen that agility and entrepreneurial spirit are good business culture values in the company. Also, we have a sustainable approach with circular business model by using renewable sources, bypass products, and efficient use of wastes. So we can see that it aligns with the values and the culture of your family business, Firmenich, and high synergy effects can be achieved by the acquisition of DRT. Now let's look at the synergy effects. These would be that it supports the Firmenich's ambition to be the leader in renewable, biodegradable, and sustainable ingredients. Also, we could be enabling new chances and capabilities in the sectors health, nutrition, and cosmetics. Also by that, we would reinforce your company's strengths in its second largest market, France. By acquiring DRT, we would further strengthen Firmenich's leadership in the perfumery and ingredients business area. Despite having all these synergy effects, we still found some complications. And for that, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Jon Lovis Imming.
Thank you very much, Kavishan. Now let's have a look at the complications. Let's have a look at the business dimensions. The merger possesses threats and complications. While is it hard to integrate during COVID, we all know COVID is the current state in this scenario, so maybe hard times facing us for the future. Furthermore, we have a highly capital intensive. Thirdly, uncertainties for the future during pandemics. Fourthly, we have a threat of diminishing profitability. And last but not least, we have an uncertain short-term revenue. We don't know what will happen in the next year. Now, we have to derive two key questions. What are the consequences and benefits of this acquisition? And secondly, can we finance the acquisition? With that, I want to hand over to my colleague Moritz Maltmann to see solving the business problem.
Thank you very much, Jon. Now, moving on to the solution on how we can fix this business problem, we can see on the business side that we have two options of going to the future. First, we can just not do the acquisition, delay the purchase, maybe to a time in the future, or we can buy it right now and start integrating right now. As we can see on the business side, a no purchase would lead to a loss of the long-term strategy to keep innovating, to keep evolving, and to keep moving forward, while an integration would pursue exactly that. Now, with that, I would like to conclude our presentation for today, which is of course not what we're about to do. We want to address the missing two spheres, which are highly important for a family business. We want to address the business and the family business sphere. For that, I want to hand it back over to my colleague, Jon Lovis-Imming, to finish his complication slides.
Thank you very much. I already addressed the business side, but as my colleague Moritz Waldmann mentioned, we are here in a family business, which is important to look at the family side, the family business side, and the business side. We have identified on the family side, the family faces risks regarding independency. After 125 years of 100% ownership, that might be changing. Secondly, on the business side, as I mentioned before, the business is facing difficult decisions. And the most important part, the family business. The family segment is missing governance structures to compare to the business. Let's dive deeper into the family side. Missing alignments of generations. Currently, generational conflicts with more generations will be possible in the future. We have currently 3 active generations in the company. Secondly, we have increasing amount of shareholders. When new generations will come, even more members want to take part in the company. And thirdly, we have a lacking forum for communication in the family. Now handing over to the family business side. A threat of losing control. What does that mean? Well, we have a stakeholder only represented, possibility of new outsider stakeholders, which is at risk because in the past we had 100% ownership, and thirdly, not sole owner anymore. Furthermore, we have a family not involved with operations. Now, as I mentioned before, these are the 3 key takeaways of the complication structures. Now it's crucial to derive 3 key questions that must be solved in order to guarantee for the future success of the family business. The first question will be, how can we assure a short and long-term business success? Secondly, how do we align the interests of a family stakeholders and keep up with a fast-paced environment? And last but not least, how and when do we acquire DRT? With that, I want to hand over back to my colleague Moritz Waldmann to see how we successfully enter the ship into our harbor. Thank you very much.
Now, moving on to the real solution that we want to propose, we can see that we have to implement the family and the family business segment. As you can see, a no purchase would lead to no enhancement of the family business nor business side, while an integration could enhance all of those, keeping the company innovative and keeping it and enhancing the way it sails to the future. The key takeaway here is that those values that need to be implemented right now can allow us to make quick maneuvers into the future and help institutionalize the values that we have created over the long run to accelerate our decision making, moving on, getting bigger, implementing a new company into our structure. We can see that our company, Munich, is built on two pillars that we need to establish and keep on building up. One would be the governance side, and the second would be on how we plan to implement that. For a successful implementation, we need to ensure that the governance is really solid and can help with that. Here, we need to implement a family council and create a family constitution, which is defined by our family values that are written down already. Let's get started with the family governance. Now, first of all, let's start with a family council. Here, we create a professionalized, concentrated board consisting of family members. As of now, we have about 40 shareholders of the company. We want to condense that to around 7 members to ensure a long-term alignment, which will be elected with the business values and help moving on. Here, we can solve 2 main issues. We can solve the stakeholder issues, where we have too many stakeholders, which will be eliminated when we only have 7 of those. And we have a trusted and competent board consisting in the family council. The trusted board will be supervised and guided towards it. Now, how do we solve the second issue, the shock issue? We have to keep in mind that we are now facing the coronavirus. We have to face a global pandemic where we have to make quick decisions that might affect us over the long run. We might not have the supply chains right now that we need to establish. For that, if we have a family council, we can help with the aligned decision making and improve on that, and while keeping our long-term perspective as a business-first approach. Moving on to the family constitution, we see that we have 4 to 5 key pillars for the family. We need to focus on the customer, the creativity, the sustainability, and of course, for a family company, the legacy moving on. Here, those values dictate closely what comes into the constitution. So we want you as a family to come together, redefine and write it out clearly on what you want to do to enhance your compass sailing on to the future. We want you to define and set time-proven values. We want you to apply this common business knowledge and stay on path for future generations. Here, the common time-proven values allow for quick maneuvers into the future, and we help to institutionalize the values that you already have and implement the governance structure that you have for your company as well as for the family now. Moving on to the second part, how do we plan to complete this merger and how do we actually acquire DRT? We want to create a vertical integration moving on with this acquisition, broadening our platform and broadening our footprint into the branch. Here we have matching values and synergies between those 2 companies, as my colleague already said, with a circular product life cycle and a vertical integration of business. We have already conducted a thorough due diligence with an analysis of the business, while we still follow the principles of a conservative capital structure. We have talked about taking on a convertible note in the amounts of about 750 million euros. We plan to follow through with that while still implementing a buyback possibility to get the stake we give out now in the future. Here, we want to focus on the time horizon of the investment and look at the possibility of what could be if we don't buy it now. What would happen? Right now, as you remember, we are still facing the COVID crisis. The prices of everything the prices of all companies is diminished by the problems they are facing now with long-term uncertainty whether they will succeed or go bankrupt. And we want to focus on our conservative capital structure and help with that to allow us for a cheaper valuation of the company that we want to acquire. Here, a cheaper valuation helps us over the long run, keeping our long-term vision with the investment that we want to do now and establish ourselves a footprint and a leadership in the perfumery and ingredients business. Now, when looking at the solutions, we can see that a family council and a constitution are of high effect, while the risk is very small. Now, if we implement those two before the acquisition, we can see that the acquisition moves from the risk, from very risky, to only medium risk, since we can govern the people that will have a stake in our company now, and we can help set boundaries to reduce risks in the future, to build a company that will last for decades, if not even centuries. Now, how are we exactly going to do that? I want to hand it over to my colleague, Fabian Plaza, to tell you more about our implementation plan.
Well, thank you so much for pointing out the recommendations and solutions we found out. Now, let's look at the implementation and how we want to achieve our different solutions. I want to start with the merger, the most important project you asked us to look about. So, you've already started in March 2020 with the arrangement and with Tikehau Capital and External Investment Group. Now, in January 2021, we want you to accept this offer and comment and start with your docking strategy. We want you to use and operationalize the 30 years of partnership you already have with DRT. You are working closely together with them. And then we want to start in February 2021 and want you to communicate the goals and the changes you have decided. Keep in mind, we are still facing the corona crisis, so this has to happen online. We want the CEO, the top management, the family and the main stakeholders to communicate the goals and the changes you want to implement. Now, heading over to March, we still have regulations. There's a travel ban, you established yourself in the company. So, we have to align the management positions with our positions we have in the company right now with workshops, with online workshops. We want to prepare DRT online for the takeover, and then when COVID is finally ended, we want to send out our MMA team consisting of Gilbert Firmenich and the MMA team to complete the prepared integration on site. So, then we want to establish the family council. And how do we do that? Well, we have a 3-step plan for this: gathering, election, application. First of all, I want to congratulate you on the brilliant governance structures you've established in your business. But there's a great difference between the business governance structures you've established and the family governance structures you have not yet established. So the first step would be gathering, a family meeting. You guys have 80 family members and 40 shareholders right now. So we want you to meet up and then elect the 7 most competent, the 7 best family members who will represent your family in the family council. Those will have to apply, and then we will actually make quarterly meetings with the 7 family members and enforce the decisions of the family council through the board and the majority of the stakes we still own. All right. That's right. Through the family constitution, through the family council, we strengthen our future of independence after giving away a stake for the acquisition we planned. So, now we also have to implement the constitution, another vital instrument for your family to professionalize your governance structures. So, you already set a lot of values in your family. We want you to set those values and write them down so you can keep those centuries alive for, let's say, you're not thinking in years, you're thinking in decades, if not even centuries. So, we want you to orientate on these non-negotiables and align the business for values of the future. Now, these values then have to be communicated with all the stakeholders and the shareholders. So you can establish a common ground and everyone can agree upon those values. So the final step would to establish a similar governance structure as you have in your business. So you can define, after defining and carrying out the values, you can make swift, quick and high quality decisions because you defined your values and wrote them down. So, the key takeaway would be establishing a family council and a family constitution before completing the acquisition reduces risks and sets the company up for future success for decades and centuries. And with that, we want to conclude our presentation, and thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you very much. A key part of your recommendations is the focus on a family council and this family charter. Can you identify for me what were the problems you uncovered in your research that we are currently having that lead us to need the family council?
All right, first of all, thank you so much for the question. So we recognize that there is a big difference between the governance structures in your business and your family. As well, we have 80 family members and 40 shareholders. We think that in the future there might become even more as the shares get diluted, you have the next generations coming in. So we want to actually condense all those shareholders, all these interests of shareholders into 7 people so you can make faster decisions. You don't have to gather like 40 people for a meeting. There's only 7 elected and trusted members. This is why we implemented the family council. Does this fully answer your question?
No, it doesn't actually. What is the current problem we are facing
Regarding the family council?
that is leading us to need a family council? What is the problem we are facing right now that's leading you to recommend a family council?
Well, we also, let me actually think about a minute.
Now, the business is a business first, follows a business first approach. However, there's still a family back in it. And the family right now consists of those shareholders of the parent company. And in order to move to the future and help external managers, as you have appointed right now for the first time in the future, we want you to put safety rails in place using this family council to help still navigate the innovative future with the family values still in mind. That no external person can actually really differ with our set family values that are implemented into this business. So we think that a family council is vital for us to help still keeping the family spirit within the business.
So one more follow-up question, and then I will pass it on to my fellow colleagues here. You said that the family council is going to be able to mitigate the risks associated with the acquisition. How do you see the role of the family council in the acquisition and integration versus the role of the board of directors? How do those two groups differ, and why do you see that family council being integral to this process?
That is a very good question to ask, and we asked that question ourselves as well. Now, the board of directors currently consists of a minority of family members, and we want to put this special family unit in place to help that spirit, to help keep that spirit upright. Because as of now, the family can be overruled by external members already, and we want to prevent that moving on to the future. While an external manager can bring an innovative spirit, can help with the new facing challenges, such as the COVID crisis, the family spirit can still be kept intact that way.
So following up on that, the family constitution really focuses on looking at the family values and all the things that you're talking about related to the family council. So let's say family constitution is solving the problem, and then we don't need a family council, and maybe add an additional member to the board from the family so they can, let's say, as you were saying, stay away from the problem of not having or overruling our voice. So why didn't you think of that and you thought of the family council?
A family council, together with a clear family constitution, helps to put in those boundaries. Now, if we do like a mixed form of that, we run the risk of having people put out and going their own way, whilst not keeping up with the family spirit.
So I think it was on your slide number 12, you laid out some of the risks that the acquisition poses. Just wondering how you plan to mitigate those and specifically how the Family Council mitigates any of those risks identified.
All right, first of all, thank you so much for the question. Well, we handed out stakes in order to finance the acquisition. So we thought of the Family Council and the Family Constitution, those governance structures, in order to strengthen the role of the family within the board of directors, because we have a aligned spirit of the family, and as well, we still have a majority of the stakes in the family. So if we align our interest within this family and within the majority of stakeholders, we think that this could mitigate the risk we face with the acquisition.
So specifically integration during COVID, how will that mitigate the risk?
Now, we still have to keep in mind that this company wants to build itself as a long-term solution for the branch it is currently in and wants to succeed for the coming decades and centuries. The business right now follows a very conservative balance sheet structure and a capital structure, having probably a lot of cash on hand and a very low amount of debt. Here, if we play our cards right now, we can minimize the opportunity cost we might run into later on with higher prices for the acquisition, while still keeping the long-term spirit and setting ourselves up for the long-term success.
So we've got this ship coming into the harbor, and I think you've made a good case for why the DRT acquisition makes sense. Still not clear why now. One of the things, we've had a 30-year relationship with them. We do a lot of things with them. One of the things you said is that we could possibly get a lower price. Are you suggesting that we go and offer a lower price to acquire DRT at this point in time than $760 million, or is that part of the implementation?
That is actually a very good question to ask, because we thought of that. The company in its history usually did not pay the highest price in its former M&A activities. In the last 4 years, it conducted about 12 implementations of new companies, and it was never the highest bidder. Here, we want to focus on the synergies that we can unlock with this acquisition, not only helping us implementing and vertically expanding, but also help the company, DRT, to improve itself moving on to the future. That's why we plan to focus and time the investment and the acquisition now to get a better price, so to say, on the equity that we want to acquire.
So lower than what it is now.
As of now, we're midway through the COVID crisis. So yeah.
And if DRT says no, we don't want to go lower than the 760, will you still go through with the acquisition?
Well, this is actually a hard question to answer, because we've already been through the due diligence process, and I mean, we see the synergies, and I think we already kind of figured out the deal, and I don't think we will still negotiate the price. I will think we will keep the $750 million. Yeah.
Have you thought about how you're going to measure the success of all that proposed strategy that you have?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the question. We have, because as I already said, you have brilliant governance structures in your business, and we want to, when we try to align our family governance structures with your business governance structures. You already evaluate your decisions and the actions you take, so we actually want to use the same system, the same metrics on the family side as well.
You started out with a number of models using the Sharman model and also looking at our ownership, business, and family and where we are currently. How does that analysis align or not align with the recommendations you're providing us?
I'm sorry, I don't think I got the question. Can you please repeat it?
Sure. You initially did some analysis for us of looking where we are currently as a business. You looked at our ownership, business, and family using Jim Davis's work and then Professor Dita Sharma's work to understand where we currently are in terms of our family and our business, and made some analysis points for us. How do those analysis points support or not support the recommendations you're giving us today?
Thank you very much for the question. When we look at the Sharma performance matrix, we can see that we're currently at the upper left corner with good family and good business performance. By maintaining this acquisition and by the Family Council, we make sure that we keep being at the top left corner with a good family performance and still maintaining with this good innovational process a better business performance.